My name's Rich, welcome back to me, my bike and I think this is just going to be replacement gaskets, seals and O-rings really. Stop them leaking, give them a bit of a clean. It's not surprising they were puddling fuel out because they're just ready to completely collapse. None of the O-rings are holding any of the pipe unions in at all. I mean, it would have just been their positions within intakes, etc., that were just holding them. As you can see, those O-rings are just shot to bits, so nothing really surprising there. It's all flopping around. Anyway, this is the number one carburettor. So I think I'm just going to take this rail off, which is for the choke mechanism. Let's see if I can get a socket small enough for that nut there. Let's try 6mm. No, that is too small. 7, yeah. Lose any washers or anything like that. Hopefully that's steel. Yeah. Spring washer, okay. Let's see if we can just lift that off if that slips off. Come on. Okay. Yeah, okay. Let's get the float bowl off. See what that's looking like inside. The screws there don't look too bad. Let's see how soon I need to get the cutter out. Yeah, okay. Try a different screwdriver. It's not too long before you muller them up that you just can't get them to shift, so yeah, nope. It's all very well having something that's as, like a diamond cutter, but it's only got so much strength in it in terms of how it's embedded into the material. So, right, let's see if we can get a slot cut in. Screwdriver into the slot, it's just not enough cut. Not cut into it enough. Okay, right, well I don't think these little diamond wheel cutters are any good because the material that's impregnated into them just comes out too easily. So let's try something a little bit more robust. better. He says before it breaks off. There you go. Slightly marred it, but that's not a problem. That one loosened easily on its own. Right. Yeah, that's, you look at the gasket there, so this was the one that was leaking. I don't know where it was leaking from. When you look at the gasket there, and it's completely flat. It's full of dirt and gunk. Okay. And it was dripping out of the float bowl drain, so yeah, see, they've got an O-ring up this end, which obviously stops fuel coming out of there, but I don't know how that blocks fuel from coming out of there. You've just got metal on metal at this end, so that's all a bit weird. I don't know what that feature is, but part of the casting, no doubt. Okay. It should just pull straight out. Should do. I'll get hold of it first. You can prise it across. Yeah, it's moving. He's coming. Okay. Don't know if that block needs to come out. Let's try it. Hang on a minute. Where's the float needle? What? There's no float needle in there. Good grief. It's actually just fallen down there. So I wonder if that just fell out just there and then. There's no steel parts on that. I'm trying to grab it with a magnet, which doesn't work. Okay, right, well, I think I definitely need to get myself another bike. This one is not going to be on the road anytime soon. Right, let's take the top end off. Both of these jets you can barely see through. You can see the blockages in there on the end of that float needle valve. That's very worn. We'll obviously have to float test this. They're usually okay, to be fair. Not sure if that's a bit of damage or a feature, but that seems to be pressed in. Should be alright though. And that O-ring is completely flat. And I need to replace these. Time to get the top off. This is just a pair of hands at this stage rather than a vice. Okay. You'd think these have been off recently anyway, because all the paint that's been put on there. Someone must take this off to paint it because the screws aren't painted. Well, at least these are free, so I have to replace those. I think I've got replacements for the float bowl. Just not for the top. Right, let's be careful because that could spring up. Not that these springs under here are very powerful, but don't need doing a jack in the box, do we? Okay, that's your fuel mixture screw. So it's not an air screw, it is a fuel screw because it's on the fuel side, as far as I can see. Well, that's turned out quite some way. That must have been 4 or 5 turns. Okay. Should have just checked it really more accurately by counting the number of turns when screwing it all the way back in, but it's not that important really, as long as it's set back up okay. Looks nice and straight, it should be. Everything's really filthy though. As is my bench. very careful though, because these are very old parts. No idea if that's... Oh yeah, that makes more sense. Right, now I should be able to get that choke block out. It's loose enough now anyway. Quite gungy down there. But once they're all sorted and back together and clean, I'm going to need this bench completely clear for the engine stripped down, and this one. So I've got 4 of these rebuild kits, most of which is useless. They've clearly sent the wrong random one, so that appears to be okay, which is something I really do need. And the screws for the top cap and the float bowl screws themselves, which I mullered. The float needle valve is fine, but the block itself is completely the wrong one, so that's no good. The pilot screw's no good. I should be able to make use of some of these little O-rings, but that's about it. I just need to clean it up and get it back together. Ooh. That's weird, that's just falling apart. Okay, I think that wasn't an unscrew job, it was just a unlock. Fair enough. The other bench was a little bit quieter, but not much. I took the float back out because clearly it floats. I'll clean that manually, same as this. Really, that's the old gasket, don't need that anymore. And the float valve needle, I'm going to need one of those. I need to get some paint stripper on this. Well, it's been an hour and a half and it's doing absolutely nothing, this stuff. Let's have a look, see what everything looks like. Kinda looks gungy. Dirty anyway. Hopefully that's enough. Well, we'll take a look over everything and see how it did, and if we need to put it all back in again, we'll put it all back in again. Right, so I gave this a bit of a just hand brush. Same with that. They seem to be okay. Right, let's have a look at these little bits. Well, that looks clean enough. Well, I think these have cleaned up quite well. Looking alright. Everything seems to be looking pretty clean. A little bit of rubbish in the corner there. I think you could probably be too fussy with some of this stuff. This only has a 30-minute timer, unfortunately, so I've set it to 20. It's currently sat at 14, and we'll switch the heater on and I'll let that run for 30 minutes, and then when it beeps off I'll run it again for probably 2 or 3 more attempts. Well, the ultrasonic bath seems to be doing a reasonable job. I'm just trying to get them to a decent standard, freshen them up a little bit. Seems to be working. Shame I can't replace the jets because they seem to be unobtainium. But they're slowly going together all nice and clean. Freshened up the caps, got them battened down with some new screws, got some new float bowl screws in there as well, float bowl gaskets, and I've got a whole bunch of O-rings that I can go around and replace once I'm done. This is more of a clean and a reassemble than a rebuild, to be perfectly honest. So this is the third one I've cleaned up, ready for reassembly. It's the number 2 carburettor, or the carburettor off the number 2 cylinder if you like. That's front left. That's the cap all bubbling away nicely, ready to be cleaned off and resprayed. And then I can work on the final one, the 4th carburettor, to be cleaned and off the number 4 cylinder. Gave this a manual brush up just to avoid taking the diaphragm off, and in here I've got the float which has been soaking. I took a risk that that wouldn't do it any harm, soaking it for a long period of time overnight, but I didn't want to put it in the sonic bath. Didn't want to risk introducing any problems, pinholes, anything like that to it by shaking it, even if at a very high frequency. Seems to be okay, nice and clean, got a lot of crud off it. Okay, let's put this particular carburettor off the number 2 cylinder back together. Now the only new bits I've got are the float bowl gasket, the cap screws and the float bowl screws and the float needle valve, because of the sets of rebuild kits that I got, they were the wrong ones, and you just can't seem to be able to get hold of the correct ones for this particular vintage motorcycle. I've tried David Silver Spares in Ipswich, and they put me onto another company called NRP, who did have the right kits, but the amount of stuff that was in the kits was so limited, it just doesn't seem to be possible to get hold of the jets, etc. So not to worry, I'm only cleaning them up and putting them back together, so let's get on with it. So yeah, sorry for a little bit of camera wobble there. Let's pop this one in. Cleaned everything up as best I can. There you go. There we go. And then the main jet body. I mean, these are all clean. You can see right through them. That's hardly a benchmark, is it? You can see through them, but they are pretty clean. I've run through them with carburettor rods. Don't know whether to tighten brass into soft aluminium. And now the main jet itself. So yeah, this is the number 2 carburettor. This came up really nice and, well, nice and clean as it possibly could anyway. Let's get the new little float needle on there. This can be a tad fiddly. Just the angle I'm working at, really. There goes my little socket. Right. This is going to be slightly tricky. Just have to try and lift this into the right position, and it's gone in straight away first time. And just the new float bowl gasket. You've got these little sort of built-in dowels, if you like, so they locate in there, so it keeps everything nice and square. Actually, and the best way of doing this is to offer it that way, because that stops the gasket from falling out. Now, I am no stranger to JIS screwdrivers, and I think when anybody works on stuck bolts on Japanese bikes, they get the same old comments every time. Get yourself a set of JIS screwdrivers. And of course, anyone who's watched me take engines apart or anything will see me grinding and cutting and all kinds of techniques to remove stuck and rounded bolts. Yeah, I know what JIS screwdrivers are. I think everybody who works on engines knows what JIS screwdrivers are. I don't possess any JIS screwdrivers, but I possess 1,000,001 bits. Now the thing to do is pick the best fitting screwdriver or bit that you have for the screws that you're working with. It's not always possible or very easy to identify what type of screw it is, and then work with what you've got. And if you're adept at cutting out old screws, then it's not a problem. And with these carburetors, my issue wasn't wrong screwdriver or anything like that. It was simply 40-year-old screws that were already pre-mullered. So this is working nicely. Sorry if my hand's in the way. There was a little slip there because it was fully seated. Did I, or did I not, put the carburettor in the ultrasonic cleaner without removing the mixture screw? I rather think I did. Damn. Okay, well, let's just, pretend that didn't, happen. So... oh, wow. Okay, 1 turn. 2 turns. 2.5 turns. Okay, fair enough. Half a turn. 1 turn. Another turn. Well, it was set right anyway. Oh, the cap with its new liquor paint's been drying for the last 24 hours, so at least that's nice and clean anyway. Right, okay. Needle nice and clean. Fiddly to get in. Okay. And I think what we'll do is that the right socket? No, a slightly bigger socket. That's the one. This doesn't screw in, it's more like just a sort of a little twist lock. Just like that. Non-adjustable. I'll tell you something about this when we're all together with these carbs. So just line this tab up. Okay. This has all got to come back out again anyway. But I'll do that towards the end of the build. After I've had the engine out, stripped down, rebuilt and put back in. Just need to line that little relief up there with the tab there. I'm not even sure that's necessary, to be fair. It doesn't seem to protrude. This could be a little fiddly because you've got one hand because the cap is under sort of spring pressure, so we'll just not tighten that but just hold it there. Get the other corner in. Right, just going to put the choke mechanism back in. So get the spring on there first. Okay. It's all good. So, yeah, I'll get that through there and on there. also got to get that spring engaged with that through the hole. So a little bit of fiddling, bit of WD-40, so let's just take that apart. Can't quite remember which way, might be that way. Yeah, so I'll get that on there first. Spring down. Actually, no, pop that through there first and fiddle that in. That's it. I don't think it's strictly necessary to have that tab on there, but anyway. And then that is a bushing. I'm just going to give a gentle tappity tap tap on. Right, so I've still got to move that a little ways along. You can see I just need to drive that bushing, this whole thing, just about 8 or 10 mil further in. This edge has just come away there, but I don't think that's going to cause any problems. It should work. You need 3 hands though. Using a G-clamp as a press can always be a bit tricky, but there you go. Last few bits then. These can be a little fiddly. Definitely don't have a spanner for this little nut. That's the one. Just going to rotate until it goes to full lock. There you go. Probably should have put that on before I tighten down this last screw here. Shouldn't cause any problems though. Oh, that's so fiddly. Loose, but you just can't get your fingers in there to grab it. Okay, this is going to be super fiddly. And I need to get the washer on the other side. The tiniest of split pins you've ever seen in your life. See that tiny little hole? Got it started. See if we can pull it. Yep. And then just get that. Yeah. We'll do it with my fingers. Okay, that kind of just slots into there. And then we just need to connect this linkage up to here. Slot that back in there first. This all makes sense when they all go back together on the bike. You can see these carburetors still need a lot of work in many ways. Right, so all I need to do now is just take them two washers off from that split pin and connect it through into there. And then this pipe just slots into there then. And then that's them all done for now. So that's the pipe back in that end and that end. So I'm just going to flip these over, and that way we can do these without anything dropping off. Hopefully. So I'm just going to get on and do the last one and then get them all back together. Well, they're done for now, as in they're all back together. No idea what these two springs are for, but when I took the carburetors off the bike, they were laying on top of the engine cases. And the three little linkage springs in there you just can't keep in. Because these are just really floppy, they're not like holding together solidly or anything like that. And I'll need to make a little frame out of another air intake casing that allows me to get in there and make adjustments plus hold everything true so that I can fit them to the bike without them all falling apart. So this is the air intake manifold. It's actually got a broken lug there. That's where the coils bolt to it when it's on the bike. But if I chop this up into a kind of skeletal frame, I should be able to get those carburetors to all stick together, all lined up properly so they're not flopping around or falling apart with springs popping out all over the place. And I should be able to adjust them up and get them back on the bike. much more easily. That was a suggestion of a viewer of mine, Mr. Michael Smallbones. Jolly good idea. So I'm definitely going to do that. I just need to get another one of these first. But I've got to get the engine out, strip that down and rebuild it before I do anything else. So these carburetors are going to be put aside for now. When I get back to them, they're going to need a little bit of restorative work. What I've done so far isn't really much more than just strip them down and give them a bit of a clean and reassemble. Painted the cap, okay, I've put new cap screws and float bowl screws in, a new float bowl gasket on each of them, and float needle valves. That's about all I could get hold of with the kits that seem to be available for these, unfortunately. So when I do get to putting these back on the engine, I will need to set the float heights correctly, and at least one of the diaphragms needs replacing because it's got a tear in it. But next video I'm going to get on and start the engine work. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and I will see you next time.